It's now time for What's Up Asheville, sponsored by the City of Asheville, with the host, Mr. Sam Parada, and here he is.
What's up, Asheville? You're on WRES 100.7 FM. I'm your host, Sam Parada, Communication Specialist with the City of Asheville. And today's guest is Jade Dundas, Director of Capital Management Department with the City. How are you?
I'm great, Sam. Thanks.
I should say what's up.
Yeah, what's up?
That's the name of the show. How are you doing today? And, in general, with the whole, recovering efforts that we're taking?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Recovery's definitely a heavy lift for all involved, for the community, and certainly trying to understand and work through all of that. And really do appreciate the community and the support that we're getting to be able to help everybody through the recovery effort.
Mm-hmm. You're right. And so recovery takes a lot of different shapes, and so these past few episodes have been a lot about kind of like a episodic what's happening with the city and what different efforts and resources are available. So today we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure and before the storm, after the storm, what plans you have for the future. So I want to take a quick step back. You've been in the show before.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
McCormick Field.
Oh, that's right. I wanted to talk about it too. So just for new listeners or those who don't know what capital management does, can you explain to me what it is that you do and how your responsibilities kind of meet paths with things like NCDOT, Department of Transportation, and what is it that you encompass and what you don't?
Yeah, so capital management is really two main functions. The first being the maintenance of facilities that we have. The city has somewhere around 80 plus facilities for us to maintain mechanically, so that's heating and air, plumbing, electrical, those sort of things. But the other piece from an infrastructure standpoint is that we help to build and maintain the infrastructure that we have, or the infrastructure that we envision for the future. So a significant portion of my team does project management. So that's, what people see is the construction of new sidewalks and recreation centers, or the additions to existing facilities, repair roofs, replace roofs, all of those sort of things. But there's also a lot of work that goes in before we actually have a contractor on site. So that does include design efforts, and coordination with groups like the DOT and other cities' staff, and then also the community. The community is our stakeholders, right? So being able to get out and do the planning effort, which a lot of times is supported by other departments, but being a part of that team and understanding what the community expectations are helps us to create a better project.
So oftentimes the planning process will involve a department like planning and urban design, and then it ends up being passed on to you to finalize the construction and the vision.
Yeah.
So let's go to Helene. Helene comes by and damages a lot of the city's infrastructure, and this number has been floating around, which is $1 billion worth of damage. What can you tell me about that specifically, like the type of damage that happened, and is there anything that was completely lost, or can we still use some of these facilities?
Well, right now, so the damage was wind and water related primarily. And, those areas that were subject to flooding had the biggest impact. But the recovery effort really started, with the response. There's been debris removal going on, and essentially a lot of that's important for us to be able to understand what is broken. And so we've been going through the process of doing damage assessments and recording the details of all of the things that are damaged, and really trying to understand what the project load will turn into over time. There are some projects that needed to be started. For example, if we've had some roofs that were damaged, and if you don't repair those roofs, that can cause additional damage to the buildings that they're covering. Also, Public Works has been strong at the road reconstruction on the Zelly Road, for example. And so, there's some initial work. We've been active in trying to get things to the identified projects that need immediate attention taken care of, and then also understanding the damage and then developing those into projects following a process, the FEMA process that we're getting, the public public assistance process.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot.
It is a lot, yeah.
Because $1 billion is nothing to scoff at in terms of this is damage.
Yeah, it's definitely a different order of magnitude that we don't have to deal with. Project management is project management, but it's just a lot. Their projects are bigger, and there's a lot more of them.
And we don't have $1 billion just laying around.
No, it's not something we spend a lot on.
But FEMA will be helping. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because FEMA came in to help, and they will continue to help throughout the process, but from your perspective.
Yeah, so the FEMA is a federal assistance program, or they run the Federal Emergency Management Administration. They have a public assistance program, which essentially helps fund recovery after a disaster. This is a process that is it's been applied throughout the nation over and over again, and we're just really trying to work through their steps and understand their process so we can position ourselves to actually have the best cost recovery associated with our eventual build back, which includes in cases the mitigation or building back in a way that would be more resilient.
Right. We're not really going to talk much about this today specifically, but we have money coming in. We have CDBG DR, which is $225 million, and we have the bond money before the storm hit. So just want to put in perspective that yes, we have money coming in, but it cannot be used right away immediately, because if things are not done correctly, especially through FEMA, then a lot of that reimbursement doesn't take place, correct?
Yeah, we definitely need to make sure that we're following all the processes and meeting all the expectations. Again, like I said, there are things that need to be done sooner, and there are things on the longer term projects that we can do, like I mentioned before, the public engagement and design work that we're trying to figure out how to create those projects so they are taking the right steps and really accomplishing things, meaningful things in the short term and preparing us for the long term recovery.
And things so we're talking about public engagement in terms of new projects coming up or things that were damaged that can be influenced through public engagement. And at the same time, sidewalks got damaged, a bridge needs to be repaired. Things like that, do you expect a lot of public engagement, or you're thinking more broad with things like parks, or I don't know, the parks are the only example I have right now.
Yeah, so typically, a project, for example, a roof replacement doesn't require a lot of public engagement. So if we have things like that, but if it's an infrastructure that is used by the public for a means of transportation access or a park system or something like those definitely rise up on the level of public engagement, which we are involved in. One other thing that I would like to mention is that we have done a lot of planning here recently that I believe is going to inform. It doesn't replace public engagement. We'll certainly do that, but that planning effort has been helpful for us to understand preliminarily maybe where to focus some of our efforts and understands, and it informed the bond. And each one of those planning documents contains an element of equity and resilience that are factored into those efforts. And so those are good foundations for us to be able to understand how to move forward.
Yeah, and there's engagement fatigue which we know exists. This community is very outspoken, and we hear you, and we know that a lot of the questions that have been asked is questions that you heard before. I do want to also acknowledge that Helene may have shifted a lot of those priorities the community has. So this engagement is really a new, this is like basically starting from ground zero.
Yeah, I think the plans do establish a good foundation, but we certainly need to go back and double check those, and engage people. There are things that may have been maybe a project that might not have been a project prior to Helene, and it may have been a project that was a longer term, that have been pushed, that now they need attention. And so being able to really, again, use the planning efforts that we've done, because they were fantastic planning efforts, but use those as a foundation and really establish like how and get people to engage in that context.
Right, and we're also going to look at previous engagement and to really pave the way and make it as clear, concise, easy as possible moving forward. At the same time, I do want to take a moment to promote a survey that's coming out this week. This episode is coming out on Friday the 17th. So maybe, yesterday, Thursday the 16th, the 14th, a survey will come out that will ask for priorities in terms of recovery. So, the responses from this will be really helpful for all of the recovery efforts the city is doing, because you have infrastructure, but we have debris collection, we have water, we have housing. So go to our website, check our social media. I'm sure we'll be putting it out there, our public input page. And please take it's only 4 questions, so please answer it and help us recover better and faster.
Yep.
So let's go back to 2024. Was a good year up until. Tell me about some of the wins that happened in 2024 for your department.
Yeah, so we did have a busy year, as we tend to do. We're our projects are pretty well funded even in the good times, and so last year we were able to open up a couple of sidewalk projects that were pretty important, and one of them, New Leicester Highway, is a really important connectivity project on a pretty heavily traveled vehicular traveled road, so providing additional pedestrian safety was important. And that project took a long time to put together, so we were happy to see that one. Murphy Oakley All Abilities Playground was an amazing ribbon cutting and well-used project. So and then we did have some wins that were impacted by Helene, and so
getting ahead of me.
Yeah. So we definitely regret that, but understand that the interest in putting time and attention and finance money to those projects is important to the community, and so that will help us understand how to put things back together.
And the big hope is that, again, FEMA will help reimburse a lot of this project, so it shouldn't really take financial impact on the city to build back to where we were and continue building moving forward.
Yeah, just as long as we're make good stewardship and making sure that we're understanding their process and working with them to follow that.
Yeah, and a lot of the recovery pieces, or I don't want to call them departments, but the different recovery city I guess departments is a way to call them. I don't want to call them groups, for example. Yeah. A lot of the work that they did when the storm hit was understanding how FEMA works. And I'm sure you've done your due diligence and are continuing to follow those steps. But tell me a little about how that's changed the process that you take.
From a project development standpoint, I think we'll still follow. Once a project's identified, we have a kind of a tried and true method of getting through projects. The federal financing piece of that sometimes can complicate things, but we do have project experience in that regard as well. The pieces that are kind of added to the recovery is the upfront damage assessment and making sure we align with that our expectations for a project align with the FEMA's expectations too.
And then, so we talk about 2024. How about 2025? What is in the pipeline?
Yeah. One thing we talked about earlier is McCormick Field. It was a project that we started. I know you're a huge baseball fan. So we started that project in August. And I have to admit, when you have an impact, a storm that impacts so much like this, you have to be concerned about your progress in other areas. And what happened was the contractor not losing sight of the 2025 season and the need to be able to have things together and opening to allow for opening day. They contacted us about a week after the storm and said that they wanted to continue with the process. And
continue the process.
Yeah, so that was amazing for us, and the ability to continue that project has been hugely helpful because it just allows us to continue to move in a time where we're really trying to figure other things out.
Right. Was the field affected by the storm?
I think that the embankments had a little bit of impact, but really largely it was not damaged significantly.
So that's still on track.
Yeah. And then there were some other projects that were Southside Connectivity Project, which is part of it is adjacent to McCormick Field, but it also connects the Southside neighborhood depot to McCormick Place. We have an important project in one of our facilities, a municipal building that needs some structural repairs, and so we're getting that started. And then just really kind of trying to keep on track with our normal CIP. And then also in this time we've had a bond approved, which I know you're interested
Yes. So let's jump into bonds.
Okay, all right.
Or actually, you know what? I do want to jump back a bit. You mentioned Carrier Park. What happened to it?
Well, it was underwater. I mean, that's the easiest way to explain
Turned
it.
into an aquarium, pretty much.
Yeah, the velodrome was completely submerged. The
Wow.
bridge, the pedestrian bridge that allows people to go over the track, had debris hung up in the handrail. So it was kind of an idea of how much water was in that area. It affected the restrooms. And so, yeah, and that's not unique in that area. We have a lot of riverfront parks, which are amazing, but they all sustain damage that you get when you have high waters that are moving at a pretty quick speed.
Mm-hmm. And so right now it's just no man's land over there. Is it? I know you're working on the planning or the different projects that will be worked on. Is it in one of those?
Like I said, we're just really trying to work through the process. And
It's
try
too
to
early
figure out
for
the
me to
damage.
ask.
Yeah. So it is definitely one of our. We know that the importance of it, and really just trying to figure out how to incorporate all of that into the planning, into the project development process.
I know it's a lot of work, and I want to sincerely give my thanks to you. Appreciate everything you're doing, and you will be doing for a while.
Yeah,
it's a long-term
Yep.
process. And speaking of long-term, we can jump into bonds now.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, and just assume that I don't know anything about bonds, because I probably don't know much anyway, but just explain what a bond is and the process and what it's meant for.
So a general obligation bond is a financing tool that the voters actually have to approve.
Which they did.
And they did, yes. In November, I can't remember the exact date, but early November at the election, they approved $80 million. $20 million is directed towards affordable housing. $20 million is for parks projects. $20 million just for transportation, and all three of those categories were approved in the 2016 bond. One new category, which is very important to us, is public safety facilities. Being able to invest in the buildings that house, in the case of fire, literally house, because they're sleeping there overnight.
Yeah.
Our firefighters and our police officers, and being able to really reinvest in those facilities, create new ones where there's need. So it's an amazing financing tool for us. It's just more things that we have to put into the queue to process. So,
Right. Yeah. So I did bring up the 225 million from CDBG, and then there's the 80 million that came from the bonds, and you touched three of those. You don't really deal with the affordable housing portion of that money. Do you have any idea what you're going to be doing with that?
No, we're really working together to figure that out. We have partners across the city and through other jurisdictions, but also just our fellow departments that administer a lot of those funds, and really just want to make sure that we're working with them to identify those areas where we can use the money to the biggest benefit,
right.
And make the most lasting impact on those things that are priority to the community, the council, staff. So really wanting to try to make sure those funds are going in those places.
And how long do you have to spend that money?
All of those have different timelines.
Okay.
But bonds, technically, the bonds are supposed to be issued in 7 years. I think there's a 10-year time frame for like the actual expenditure, and then every other piece, every other funding source has its own deadline. We've heard that there is some flexibility in a lot of cases on extending those deadlines, but we certainly want to try our best to get to having fully spent out as quickly as possible.
Okay, well, it looks like a very busy next few.
There's a lot to do.
Yeah, so much to do. And how's your team? Like, tell me a little bit more about like how the team works and just the general idea of what goes on behind the doors.
So we're our project management team. We're staff. We've just recently hired a new project manager, and essentially these folks are responsible for taking a project through design and into construction. We're assessing what the workload looks like, understanding that we may have to hire out some outside resources, and or potentially new employees. Just trying to work out what all that looks like.
I mean, yeah, I feel like a big issue the city will be trying to manage right now is going to be staff capacity, because we are doing a lot more work than we were doing before the storm, and now on top of that we're adding to that workload. And maybe not you so much, because it sounds to me like it's kind of business as usual for you, with a little bit of understanding where the money's coming from, but a lot of the departments are dealing with completely new things that they now need to work through. So am I accurate in that?
I'd say big business as usual, just a lot bigger scale.
Right.
Yeah. You can apply all of the techniques of project management to any project, from building a sidewalk to building a high-rise building. But it's just a lot more to do right now.
Well, we'll see how we do.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask too, Fire Station 13 on Broadway.
Yeah.
Yes, I spent a lot of nights there when the storm hit.
Yeah.
So many. You were there, that's right.
Yeah.
Man, that feels like years
times,
ago.
right?
Waking up. No, I didn't go to sleep.
Yeah,
I didn't sleep through the storm. So Fire Station 13, like, it wasn't bond funded.
No, that was out of our general fund CIP.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was, what does CIP stand for?
Capital Improvement Plan. Yeah.
So
it's our normal annual budget.
right. So completely different, and that was in the works for a while.
Yeah, yeah. It was, gosh, completed 2 or 3 years ago, and it probably took us, 3 to 5 years to get there. But I would also say that it's the first fire station we built, modern fire station for this project or this group of folks. So I think maybe the next time will be a little bit better.
It's also a great building.
It is.
So
Yeah.
if you haven't been, I don't know where the public can go in the building, but like go check it out.
Yeah, there's
It's
a
cool.
public room there. Certainly, it's on the there's a web. I think it's a web page to look at the building, and yeah, it's a really modern day facility, which housed our emergency recovery efforts, response and recovery efforts, and I got some good feedback on that.
We had our own little room and everything.
yeah. So it worked well.
So the CIP, another source of funding. Are you I guess you're expecting to receive that funding again this year?
Yeah, CIP is generally pretty. It's pretty guaranteed. It may adjust from year to year, but we're going to approve a capital budget every year. We actually look at a 5-year budget plan.
Okay.
And we approve only 1 year, but it gives some indication of what is in the expectation in the queue for the following 4 years. And although those do adjust year to year, generally it's our way of staying up to date on our capital needs. And things are falling apart. So that you build something and then immediately you have to start planning for its replacement or its upkeep, and that's what
Right.
the importance of the capital budget.
So that's why a lot of projects are so expensive in the front. It's like for example, the downtown bathroom. Like the reason for the amount is the construction of it, the pipes, all the little things that come with it, and then the upkeep for it for how many years?
Well, we don't budget in the capital budget, but we certainly have to include that in our operating budget.
Yeah.
And so you would anticipate that any kind of building is going to have a 50 to 75 year life, and you're going to have to make roof investments at 20, 25 years, and windows replacements and that sort of stuff. So those become the capital replacements of the future.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming and giving us a big lesson in what capital management is and what the future of infrastructure is for the city. Please take the survey when it's out. Take a look. Keep an eye out for it. Is what I'm trying to say. Any last parting words, Jade?
No, I appreciate the time and certainly look forward to helping the community and having the help from the community to really get through all of this.
It's going to be a long haul.
Yeah, yes it is.
Alrighty, well that's it for us today at What's Up Asheville on WRES 100.7 FM. Take care of one another, Asheville.
You've been listening to What's Up Asheville, sponsored by the City of Asheville in collaboration with WRS 100.7 FM. This program will re-air every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12:30. Thank you for listening.